the dissolving of the conditioned beliefs is not a function of intellectual understanding, but rather of 4 experiential transformative steps. So, essentially what it boils down to is that there's no need to believe something that is readily available for you to directly experience. And in religion, it's said to have faith in God or to believe in God, right? Because in religion, it's considered to be the case that it's not an available direct experience. It's something that you have to believe in. In the East, the way these teachings are taught is that who you are and what is real is available as a direct experience, and therefore it does not involve the need to believe anything. And what he's saying here, and what I have been saying to you in class, is that conditioning involves believing a lot of things that were given to you in such a way where you didn't question them. Yes? Yeah, believing means that when you go to school as a kid and when you come into this world and you start to be conditioned by your parents and by society and by school and by religious institutions, right? You're being told this is the way it is, right? You're not saying, well, here's something you might want to believe, right? You notice when you were a kid, nobody said that. They said, this is the way it is. This is who you are. This is how life is. This is how the society is. This is who God is. Now make some money. And so one of the things that he's saying here is that there are ways that you can have a direct experience that cuts through the beliefs, that will have the beliefs start to fall apart and be replaced by direct experience. And he says that there are 4 experiential transformative steps. Interestingly enough, I have actually spoken of these steps, maybe not in exactly 4 steps, but you'll see. The first step on the direct path is the illumination by direct experience of one's infinite core wisdom as being aware presence itself. The first step on the direct path is the illumination by direct experience of one's infinite core wisdom as being aware presence itself. I have said here many times, the first and most important necessary step is for you to look and see awareness. That's what he just said. For you to look and see awareness. The first step on the direct path, it's a direct path because you're directly looking at the truth. You're not believing it, you're looking directly at the truth. And when you look, what are you looking for? You're looking to notice awareness itself, which is always here. That's the first thing. You've got to recognize awareness as your divine nature. And you can do that directly because it's always here. You don't have to believe you're here, right? Yeah, you don't have to believe you're here. So it's possible to look and see what is it that's here that you don't have to believe is here. The second step is to abide in the direct experience of knowingly being the open, limitless, ever-present awareness that is your true nature, allowing all identification with the indoctrinated illusions of being a time-bound, finite mind body, a someone, a persona, or a something to spontaneously unravel and fall away in the light of the truth. That's a long statement, but it's worth going over when you get this at home. So the second step is to abide in the direct experience of knowingly being that. So if you see that and you see that that is your true nature, if you see that and you see that awareness or consciousness is the essence of your existence, it is who you are. The second step is to abide as that awareness. And when you go to abide as that awareness, what will interfere? And how does the mind interfere?
Takes possession of your thoughts and talks you out of it.
Okay, the way the mind interferes is by thinking. Yeah. Because when the thinking activity occurs, what's happening, that's happening automatically because you were conditioned this way so early on and have practiced this being the truth, right, is that when the thinking activity is occurring, the way that is happening for you is that you're thinking. It's not that thoughts happening, it's I am thinking. That's the thinking activity, and that's the activity that is replacing the direct experience of what you are as awareness. There's an awareness of thinking. There's an awareness of thinking, but the thinking can't be aware. You see that? Thinking happens in awareness, right? But the thinking is not aware. There's an awareness of thinking, but the thinking is not aware. So when you think that you're thinking, you're assuming that there is a consciousness that's thinking, right? But there is no consciousness that's thinking, right? There is no you. When you say I am thinking, there is no you thinking. The thought process claims everything in order to maintain the idea that there is a you. That's what I was relating to earlier when I said everything you do in life is witnessed by your own divinity, but instead the thinking activity steals it for its own advantage. And what it steals it for is to use it to maintain and survive the idea that you're a person. That's what it steals it for. So it's not what's happening, it's what's happening to me. It's not breathing, I am breathing. It's not a body, it's my body. It's not a life, it's my life. The thinking uses thinking to do that, to add to everything, to add you to everything. And this you that it adds to everything has to be added in thinking because it doesn't exist. And without its existence, when you move attention out of the thought process, right? So the second step is to abide in the direct experience of knowingly being the open, limitless, ever-present awareness that is your true nature. And in order to do that, you have to keep paying attention and notice when you're lost in thought. Because when you're lost in thought, you're not abiding in your true nature. You can't abide in your true nature because the thinking is taking what's happening and claiming it for the idea that you have of who you are as a person. That's what you have to get your attention out of. That's what you have to starve that. You have to starve that. In the practice of self-inquiry, which is a famous approach to waking up that is spoken of by Ramana Maharshi, a famous saint in India. And what he says in this practice is if you pay attention consistently, if you develop your ability to pay attention consistently, which is meditation, what you're doing with that attention is you're watching. You're watching how the mind is using thinking, right, to steal your attention and to produce the idea that you're a physical body and you're a person. And so when you're watching this, the practice of self-inquiry is to keep taking that back, to keep taking back the attention, to keep taking the attention away from the process that is consistently producing this illusion that there's a person. So how do you do that? Well, you're paying attention, and one way to pay attention is to notice when thoughts are arising, they're just happening. That's not me thinking. That's how you pay attention and take away the idea that you're thinking, right? Notice what the evidence says, right? Notice what the evidence says. That's what he says here. Instead of believing anything, what's the evidence say? Right? If you pay attention, the evidence says all there is awareness in what's happening. There is no one it's happening to. That's a mistake. That's a belief. The third step is to attune to and live each day from the awareness that you are aware presence itself. The third step is to attune to and live each day. So the third step is what we're using meditation for. When you sit down and meditate, you are tuning to. You're tuning in, right? When you sit down and meditate, you're tuning in. You're changing the channel from the thinking channel to the being channel. You're changing the channel from the doing channel to the being channel. And you're setting that. You're setting that. When you practice meditation, you're setting that. And then when you get up from formal meditation, the idea being, if you practice it consistently over time, the idea being that gradually that will start to happen by itself. Instead of you're having to sit there and focus your attention and notice your true nature and keep bringing your attention out of the thought stream back to that true nature. Instead of sitting there formally doing that, at some point, because you've done it consistently enough in time, you'll be in the middle of your day and wake up. You'll be in the middle of your day and have a thought process occur that's disturbing and upsetting, and realize what's happening. And when you do, it will disappear. It will disappear. Because when you realize what's happening, you realize there is no you for anything to happen to. All there is awareness and what's happening. This is liberation. This is enlightenment. The third step occurs naturally in the light of direct knowing. Direct knowing, the light of direct knowing is paying attention to awareness and noticing that everything exists in awareness. When you sit there and practice meditation and you move your attention out of the thought process, there's awareness aware of the breath in the body. So the awareness aware of the breath in the body now shifts the reality in such a way that the body, who I am, is not aware. Awareness is aware of who I am. And I am that awareness. The third step occurs naturally in the light of direct knowing. The beliefs and habitual survival behaviors that have been operating on behalf of an illusory separate self are allowed, welcomed, experienced and illuminated for what they are. The arising of passing thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, and perceptions that are allowed to spontaneously dissolve back into the formless no thing in the light of awareness. The fourth step consists of contemplations, inquiries, and meditations that lovers of the truth of being are invited to embrace on a daily basis that naturally allow for the realignment of the mind and the body to resonate with and act on behalf of one's true sacred nature. So you're learning the personality doesn't have to go away. When you see things for what they are, nothing has to change, right? Because now you see that an illusion is an illusion. When you see things as they are, nothing has to change because now you see that the person you took yourself to be doesn't actually exist. It doesn't have to go away, but now it can be known for what it is. It's nothing other than a put together conglomeration of ideas about who you are, and that's called a person. And as you wake up and see the truth, and as you realign yourself, and as you allow the reality of what you are to exist by giving it attention, that which is not that reality begins to fall apart because it can't maintain itself in the light of awareness. Does that make sense? Yeah. That which is an illusion cannot maintain itself in the light of awareness. If you see a mirage, as you approach that mirage with awareness, in the light of that awareness, the mirage it becomes evident that that mirage is an illusion, yes? And when it becomes evident that it's an illusion, you don't have to do anything. You saw the truth. And so you won't try and get water from an illusion. Embracing these forms of direct inquiry generates a spontaneous destruction of the conditioned beliefs and constrictions, freeing the mind-body to operate not from the belief of an illusionary, time-bound separate self attempting to survive, improve, and get better, but on behalf of the true source of life, the non-dual aware presence that you always already are, revealing itself in word, understanding, and action as the ever-present source of love, compassion, joy, and the peace that passes understanding. If you've been coming to this class, you must be able to hear how consistent that is with what we say here, yes? And the reason for that is because the truth is the truth. There's only one truth. There aren't two truths. There's only one reality. There aren't two realities. It's not you against the world. Non-duality says there's only one reality. And all there is consciousness. Now that's not going to make sense to the person. That's why you have to give this time and be patient and be diligent and study the teachings and deepen the understandings and do the practices. If you do that, these teachings will reveal themselves to you, and as time passes, you'll see more and more clearly who you are and what reality is, what life really is. This is an important point that Brian's making. Seeing that the mirage and illusion doesn't stop your thirst, but it redirects your energy in a realistic way toward water. Does it not? You won't be chasing the illusion anymore, will you? It's no different than chasing the dollar, is it? When you see clearly that money cannot produce happiness, it's the same thing as seeing that there's no water in a mirage, right? You stop trying to get happy, but based on what you can get with money. You stop trying to be happy based on trying to get the right circumstances to produce happiness. So you save the energy that you were wasting. The question is, for you and for most of the people that come in contact with this, is when are you going to, or are you going to take this seriously enough to deal with what needs to be dealt with in order to get yourself free? You see, that's the question. Because the world that we live in is so inconsistent with this and is so in denial of the truth. And that's the world we all have to move around in, isn't it? Yeah, so you come in here and you get some clarity, you get some, you sit here and let the mind calm down a little bit, you get some clarity, and then you go out there, right? How long does it take for you to be back into the neurotic state? Yeah. I suggest that you can't make it to your car before you're neurotic. That the more you practice meditation, the easier it is for you to maintain staying grounded in the truth, in spite of what's going on around you, right? And the promise of the practices and the promise of the teachings is that at some point you will actually see this. At some point you will actually notice that somebody just cut me off again in traffic and I didn't get mad. I didn't give him the bird. Or I noticed anger come up, right? But I didn't identify with it. I realized that's just a thought that came into my mind, right? Because I got triggered. So the car that cut me off pushed a certain button and that's the program that played. But I saw it. I didn't identify with it. It didn't make me give him the bird. That's what you mean. At some point you begin to see what's happening in real time. And when you start to see what's happening in real time, you stop repeating the same neurotic patterns. You start realizing that it is possible to see what's really going on and stop being helplessly pulled into these patterns of destructive behavior that leave you feeling guilty and shameful and like a failure, because you see you're doing this over and over and over again. It's not going anywhere. It's not getting anywhere. Yeah, so in time, as you practice these things, you do start to see what's happening. You do start to realize the difference it makes to see what's actually happening. But that's only if you persist. Look who's talking. Of course you could say that because you're somebody who's persisted. You know, you have to face the challenge of doing meditation, and you have to face the challenge of being a student of the truth. You have to love the truth. And the challenge of that is to stay consistent. Keep looking, keep paying attention, keep practicing meditation, keep studying the teachings. If you do all this in time, you will know what I'm talking about yourself. And you will start to see the difference it's making. You'll be less crazy. You'll be less neurotic. You'll be calmer. You'll sleep better. Your blood pressure will go down. Your ability to relate to people successfully without being crazy will increase. So the thing is this, you know, keep practicing, keep coming, keep allowing yourself to develop more and more clarity and deeper understandings. You'll see, isn't it the case for those of you who've been coming to this class for a while, isn't that the case that there are things that you now see that when you first heard of them, it may have been googly, you know, may have made no sense to you whatsoever. Yeah, and now you hear them, and now you see what these things are saying, right? Yeah, so you want to keep that going, right? Because there's the understandings available that can allow you to see clearly what the truth is are very deep, and it takes time for those understandings to make sense to you. Yeah, so don't give up. Just don't give up. My attitude, I think the thing that made the most difference in my own journey, my own process, is some point very early in my life, I made a commitment that no matter what, that I would never, ever, ever give up my interest and my energy and my commitment to fulfilling on the possibility that I came to see was the case. Never, ever, ever, to my dying death. I may not succeed, but I won't give up. You've got to have that attitude, because you will be challenged. You will be challenged. Okay, now that you're feeling so good, it's never stopped going. The process never ends as long as you're breathing. It's like Rupert Spivey said. Somebody said to him at one point, so you're enlightened, right? You're there, you're done, right? And he said, oh, no. He said, I would never say that. Never say that, because, you know, nobody knows what's going to happen. There may be something that happens that triggers you that you never encountered before, right? And if that happens, you'll learn something.